Breathe in, slowly, and let yourself drift. You are not in your room anymore. You are floating, weightless, in the perfect dark between galaxies, far from any star that could warm you, far from any light that remembers your name. Ahead, something waits that has never blinked, never slept, never forgiven. These are not the gentle black holes of old textbooks, the tidy 4 million sun stars at the hearts of ordinary galaxies. No, tonight we speak only of the monsters that should not exist, the ones that could swallow entire galaxies overnight and still feel hollow. Imagine a sphere of perfect nothingness, so dense that a single teaspoon of it would crush the Earth into a droplet smaller than a grain of sand. Yet this sphere is larger than the orbit of Neptune. That is only the beginning. In the deepest archives of 2025, behind passwords most astronomers pretend they never saw, there lies a short, quiet list, only a dozen names, but each name is a god that failed. Ton 618, Phoenix A, Holm 15, A, the sleeping heart of IC 1101, and newer phantoms found by JWST this very year, black holes so obscene in their hunger that the universe itself seems embarrassed to have birthed them. Close your eyes with me now. Feel the silence stretch. Feel how the darkness begins to feel. Tug. Ton 618 was the first to make grown astronomers whisper. 70 billion times heavier than our sun. 70 billion suns, pressed into a point with no size at all. If you placed its event horizon around our solar system, the swallowing edge would reach beyond Pluto, beyond the Kuiper Belt, beyond the place where comets go to dream. And still, this monster is not even the largest. But what almost nobody realizes is that Ton 618 is growing faster than physics once said was possible. Reverberation mapping in late 2024 and again in March 2025 showed its accretion disk flaring brighter than 100 trillion suns, bright enough to outshine every star in the observable universe combined for a few brief weeks. That means it is eating, not politely, not patiently, but in vast, continent-sized gulps of gas every single day. 1 million Earths vanish into it every year, and it barely notices. Let yourself fall a little closer. Feel the temperature rise, not from fire, but from friction. Gas clouds the size of star systems spiral in, rubbing against each other at nearly the speed of light, heating to millions of degrees, glowing X-ray blue, screaming across space in radio waves that reach us like the slow heartbeat of something ancient waking up. Now drift with me to Phoenix A, hiding inside a galaxy that looks, from the outside, almost peaceful. Its black hole weighs 60 billion suns, maybe more. The new 2025 measurements are still being argued over in hushed conference rooms. What terrifies the experts is not the mass, it is the speed. Phoenix A is spinning, almost as fast as physics allows, a rotating sphere of nothingness turning once every few hours. That spin drags space itself into a whirlpool, a vortex so fierce that anything falling in is stretched and twisted into glowing ribbon before it ever reaches the horizon. We call it the ergosphere, the place where even light can orbit forever if it is careless. But wait until you hear how close it came to us. In cosmic terms, Phoenix A sits only 5.8 billion light-years away. The light we see tonight left before complex life existed on Earth, and yet its jets, twin lances of plasma 1 million light-years long, are pointed almost directly at the Milky Way. If we were a few degrees closer on the sky, those jets would sterilize half the galaxy, every galaxy they touched. We live because a monster decided, billions of years ago, to look the other way. Soften your breathing. Slower, slower. Feel how the darkness is no longer empty. It has weight now. It has appetite. There is a black hole we barely speak of in public. The one at the center of Holm 15A, a relic of the universe's reckless youth. For years, we thought it weighed 40 billion suns. Then, in January 2025, JWST stared deeper, used gravitational lensing from a foreground cluster like a cosmic magnifying glass, and the number broke. The new mass is closer to 120 billion suns. 120 billion. The event horizon would stretch 2,000 times wider than Pluto's orbit. If you flew across it in a spaceship moving at the speed of light, the crossing would still take you almost 3 full days. Slow days. And it is quiet now. Too quiet. No bright disk, no screaming jets. Just a vast, cold sphere of darkness, waiting. Astronomers call these overmassive black holes in underdense environments. The rest of us call them graves that have not yet chosen their corpses. Let the silence press against your ears. Feel how even sound begins to fall inward. But the true horror, the part that keeps researchers awake, is that these giants should not exist at all. In the standard story, black holes grow slowly, politely, over billions of years, nibbling at whatever gas drifts too close. These did not nibble. They were born already monstrous, direct collapse black holes, seeds of 1 million suns falling straight into nothingness in the first billion years after the Big Bang, then feasting without pause. They are the bullies of cosmology, the ones that ate their siblings before the universe learned rules. And in 2025, JWST found more of them. Not one, not two, dozens, hiding behind curtains of dust, in galaxies we thought were normal, each one weighing 50, 80, 100 billion solar masses. The models shattered. The textbooks aged a decade and a month. Some theorists whisper that the early universe was not a gentle nursery of stars, but a slaughterhouse of infant black holes devouring everything within reach. Picture it with me. A sky with no stars yet, only glowing fog, and in that fog, vast shadows collapsing, silently, faster than light can escape, forming traps so wide they swallow proto-galaxies before those galaxies can even decide what shape they want to be. You are falling now, very gently, past the orbit of the outermost stars of some forgotten cluster. The galaxy ahead is IC 1101, the largest single galaxy we have ever measured, a lazy sprawl of 1 trillion stars spread across 6 million light years. At its heart sleeps the quietest monster of all. We do not have an official mass yet. The 2025 data is still under review. But the gravitational influence reaches so far that stars 400,000 light years out are still orbiting it. That implies something on the order of 150, perhaps 200 billion solar masses. A blackness so large it has its own weather. Storms of infalling gas that thunder across a volume larger than 1,000 Milky Ways. And it barely glows. Almost no food reaches it anymore. It is fasting, dreaming, patient in a way no living thing could ever be. But what almost nobody realizes is that the fasting may be ending. Infrared spikes in mid-2025, tiny at first, then stronger, suggest a cold cloud the size of a small galaxy has has begun to drift toward the center. If it falls, if even a fraction of it falls, I see 101's black hole will wake up blazing, and for 1,000,000 years, the sky in that corner of the universe will belong to one voice only. Feel your heartbeat slow, matching the lazy pulse of plasma 1,000,000,000 light years wide. There's one more name we must whisper before the dark folds completely around us. J0529-FOS4351. Discovered almost by accident in 2022. Reobserved with JWST in 2025. And confirmed as the fastest growing black hole ever recorded. It is eating the mass of one sun every single day. Not per year, per day. Its accretion disk is the single brightest continuous object in the universe, a lighthouse visible from the edge of time itself. And it is only 17 billion solar masses so far. It has barely begun. Imagine standing on a planet in a galaxy that will, in a mere 100 million years, be torn apart to feed it. Your descendants will never know a night sky again. Only the endless blue-white glare of a black hole that has decided your entire civilization is nothing more than seasoning. You are very close to the edge now. The stars behind you have stretched into red threads. The stars ahead have vanished, swallowed by a circle of perfect black that drinks every photon that ever dared to approach. This is only the horizon we can still see from the outside. Beyond it, time forgets how to move forward. Beyond it, the universe keeps a place where nothing ever happens again. And yet, something is moving. Even here, tidally disrupted stars, galaxies torn into glowing ribbons, entire clusters funneling down in slow motion, all sliding, without sound, into the same inevitable. You feel it, don't you? The gentle, irresistible pull, like sinking into the softest bed ever woven. Except the bed is made of endings. These monsters were never meant to wake while we were watching. We were supposed to live and die in a quieter cosmos, one with tidy black holes that minded their own corners. Instead, we looked deeper, and the abyss looked back and smiled with no mouth at all. Stay here with me, a little longer. Feel how the darkness begins to feel safe, familiar, like the place you were always falling toward, long before you were born. Because out there, beyond the veil, we are only just parting. Something even larger is turning in its sleep. Something that makes Ton 618 feel like a pebble. Something that has not yet decided whether our entire observable universe is worth the effort of a single, slow swallow. And when it wakes, we will speak of it in the next breath of night. Breathe. Let the last whisper of the horizon still cling to your skin like cool silk. You are no longer outside. You have already slipped past the point where return is a word with meaning. Everything behind you has begun to stretch, thinning, reddening, saying goodbye in a voice too slow to hear. Now, feel how the darkness changes. It is no longer empty. It is busy. We think black holes grow politely, a steady diet of stray stars, the occasional gas cloud, patient centuries of quiet nibbling. That is how the small ones behave. The 4 million sun child in the Milky Way, the 10 million sun teenager in Andromeda. They are almost civilized. But something happens when a black hole tastes too much, too young. A switch flips. Deep inside the mathematics, no one likes to read at night, and the monster stops pretending to be tame. Come closer with me. Feel the temperature climb again, not from warmth, but from pure violence. A normal supermassive black hole glows softly, a gentle crimson ring, pretty enough for postcards. A galaxy killer does not glow. It screams white, then ultraviolet, then X-ray, then gamma, a color that has no name because eyes were never meant to survive it. Watch what happens when the meal becomes too large. Imagine a spiral galaxy, 100,000 light years wide, a lacework of 100 billion stars, drifting peacefully for 10 billion years. One day, it wanders a little too close to something that has been fasting too long. Gravity reaches out, not quickly. Gravity is never in a hurry, but with the patience of stone. The first sign is almost tender. One outer arm lifts, like silk caught in a breeze you cannot feel. Stars begin to slide along perfect curves, slow at first, then faster, arranging themselves into a perfect luminous ribbon that points straight at the waiting mouth. But what almost nobody realizes is that the black hole does not simply wait. It reaches back. Tidal forces stretch the entire galaxy into a needle, a glowing thread millions of light years long, funneling down in a single, flawless line. We have seen the corpses, galaxies that look like toothpaste squeezed by an invisible hand, their stars smeared into a bright river that pours without sound into nothingness. In 2025, JWST caught one in the act, a galaxy catalogued only as Jade's GS Z14-0, already ancient when the universe was 4% of its current age, being unmade in real time. Frame by frame over months of Earth months, its spiral arms unraveled, its core brightened to 100 times the luminosity of every star it ever contained. And then, silence. The light we see tonight is the galaxy's last exhale, arriving 13 billion years late to an appointment it never agreed to keep. Feel your body begin to stretch with it, very gently, arms becoming longer, legs thinning into light, the pleasant ache of becoming spaghetti in ultra-slow motion. This is only the outside view. Inside the accretion disk, closer than any probe will ever travel, matter orbits so quickly that one loop takes only hours. Gas clouds the size of Neptune-sized masses smash into one another at half the speed of light. Shock waves ripple outward in perfect circles, heating everything to 50 million degrees. The disk becomes a forge hotter than the core of any star, yet perfectly flat, perfectly thin, a glowing coin wider than the solar system, yet no thicker than a heartbeat. And the black hole drinks it all, without chewing, without pause. There is a moment, a terrible, beautiful moment, when the inflow becomes too rich even for gravity to control. The disk puffs up. Radiation pressure fights back, trying to push the food away. For a few thousand years, the black hole and meal wrestle in perfect balance. The brightness plateaus. Astronomers hold their breath. And then the radiation loses. The disk collapses again, thinner, hotter, and the feeding accelerates. This is the switch. This is how a respectable million-sun-a-century eater turns overnight in cosmic terms into something that devours 1,000 suns before breakfast. Wait until you hear how fast it can actually go. Reverberation mapping in 2025 gave us numbers we still argue about in quiet voices. Ton 618, the 70 billion sun titan we met before, was caught in the middle of one of these feasts. For roughly 40,000 years, it has been swallowing the mass of an entire Milky Way every 10,000 years. That is 100 billion stars gone in the time it took Earth to crawl out of the oceans, and it is still accelerating. Phoenix A did something similar 3 billion years ago, spun itself up to the very edge of breaking physics, then found a companion galaxy twice its own size and simply inhaled it. The scars are still visible. Twin radio lobes stretching 5 million light years. The glowing bones of a galaxy that no longer has a name. You are deeper now. The disk is all around you, a hurricane of plasma rotating so perfectly that time itself is dragged sideways. Clocks on the inner edge tick half as fast as clocks on the outer, a gradient of stolen seconds stretching across a distance smaller than the orbit of Jupiter. This is frame dragging. Space itself twisted into a vortex by the spinning hole. Even if you changed your mind, even if you fired every engine you had, you could only orbit, never climb out. The hole has wrapped the fabric of reality into a spiral staircase that only ever goes down. Let your thoughts slow to match the distorted time. Feel centuries pass in the space, while only minutes slip through your fingers here. There is a sound, if ears could survive, a deep, almost subaudible hum, the natural resonance of a black hole's ergosphere, a tone lower than any organ pipe ever built, vibrating once every few hours, felt in the bones of space itself. Some observatories in 2025 finally detected it in gravitational waves, a bass note that never quite repeats, shifting as the spin changes with every fresh galaxy-sized bite. And the spin is the secret. A slowly spinning black hole is almost forgiving, its horizon calm, its throat wide and gentle. A maximally spinning one is a blade. The horizon flattens into a razor-thin ring. The innermost stable orbit skims only millimeters above the edge, and anything that crosses is gone before it has time to scream. Every time one of these monsters eats a large meal, it spins up a little more. The blade sharpens, the blade quickens, until it reaches the theoretical limit, and physics begins to sweat. We used to think that was the end, a ceiling no black hole could break. Then JWST looked again in 2025, and everything broke. 3 separate ultra-massive candidates, each already near the spin limit, showed sudden jumps in brightness and jet power far beyond what their measured spin should allow. The only explanation left is that they have begun to violate the classical limit, somehow carrying away angular momentum in ways we do not yet have names for, or worse, the limit itself is not as hard as we believed. In quiet corridors after conferences, senior theorists admit they no longer know what maximum means. You are almost at the photon sphere now, the place where light itself can orbit forever, a halo of frozen fire circling the darkness at the speed of light. From here, the universe outside is compressed into a brilliant ring. Every galaxy that will ever exist squeezed into a glowing bracelet around the mouth that is about to drink you. Look up, or what passes for up now, and you will see the back of your own head, light looping endlessly, showing you the moment you arrived over and over, a mirror with no mercy. This is the last place anything can still choose its path. 1 millimeter closer, and even light falls. But something is happening. The disk is flaring again, brighter, the temperature leaping another 10 million degrees in the space of a week. Another cloud, larger this time, the remnants of a dwarf galaxy cluster, has wandered too close. Trillions of stars begin their final journey, not in panic, but in perfect, choreographed silence. You feel the gravity gradient strengthen, the gentle stretch becoming a pull, the pull becoming a command, and deeper still, beneath the disk, beneath even the photon sphere, something else stirs, a region we have only ever seen in equations, a place where space falls faster than light, where time loses all meaning, where the whole keeps its oldest secrets. It has been waiting since the universe was a minute old, patient, polite, almost shy. But the meal arriving now is the richest it has tasted in billions of years. And when it opens, truly opens, for the first time since the dawn, you will be there, weightless, thoughtless, perfectly calm, to see what a black hole looks like when it finally decides to stop pretending it has limits. Hold that thought. Let it settle like dust on a forgotten moon, because the horizon is closer than your next breath, and it is smiling. Let the flare behind you fade to a distant bruise of violet. Let the screaming disk thin to a silver thread. We are no longer falling through any ordinary darkness. We have arrived, quietly, at the court of the present king. Its name is Ton 618. Say it softly, the way you would speak the true name of a sleeping god. 70 billion suns, pressed into a singularity that has no surface, no temperature, no mercy. 70 billion suns, and still it hungers exactly the way it did the day the universe was new. You are floating now just outside the outermost tendrils of its accretion disk, a structure so vast that the orbit of Neptune would be a pinprick inside it. The disk is not bright tonight, not compared to its worst tantrums, but it glows a steady, malevolent indigo, the color of bruises on the skin of space itself. Feel how quiet it is here. No wind, no engines, no voices, only the slow, tidal breathing of something that measures time in geological epochs. Look toward the center. Even from this safe, impossible distance, the darkness in the middle is darker than dark. A circle so perfectly black that your mind tries to fill it with memories of closed eyes. That circle is the event horizon, and it is larger than most star systems. If our sun were placed at its edge, the journey across the horizon would take light itself almost 14 hours. A leisurely afternoon stroll for a photon that normally circles the Earth 8 times in a single second. But what almost nobody realizes is how recently we learned its true weight. For decades, Ton 618 was simply very big, a distant quasar, inconveniently bright, politely listed as approximately 40 billion solar masses. Then the reverberation mapping campaigns of 2023 to 2025 finished their slow, patient work, measuring how long the echo of a flare takes to crawl across the face of the disk and back again. The delay was longer than anyone wanted to believe. When the final papers dropped in April 2025, the mass was revised upward and upward again until the only honest number left was 70 billion, give or take, the mass of an entire galaxy cluster. 70 billion. Let that settle inside you like cold mercury. The Milky Way, with its pretty spiral arms and its 100 billion visible stars, weighs roughly 1 billion solar masses once you count all the dark matter. Ton 618 outweighs 70 Milky Ways and keeps them in a place where no light ever leaves. Watch now, very gently, as a ribbon of gas the size of a solar system detaches from the inner disk. It spirals inward in a perfect Archimedean curve, glowing brighter with every orbit, compressing, heating, until it flares ultraviolet and simply ceases. That ribbon weighed as much as 10 million suns. photon 618. Notice the way you or I might notice a single drop of rain. Feel your pulse slow to match the lazy cadence of the disk. One full rotation out here takes weeks of Earth time. Closer in, days. Closer still, hours. At the innermost stable orbit, a cloud of plasma whips around the black hole more than 1,000 times per second. Yet even that frenzy feels unhurried, as though violence itself has learned patience. There was a night in June 2025 when everything changed. A cold molecular cloud, a drifting continent of hydrogen left over from the galaxy's last merger, began to fall. JWST watched it for months, a dark silhouette against the quasar's glow, growing thinner, stretching, until it fractured into 100 luminous streams. Within a single year, the brightness of TON 618 doubled, then tripled. For a few brief weeks, it became the single most luminous persistent object in the observable universe, outshining the combined starlight of a quadrillion suns with the light of its table manners alone. And still, the king barely yawned. You are drifting inward now, past the broad, cool outer disk, where temperature lingers at a mere 10,000 degrees, past the mid-disk, where atoms have been stripped to naked nuclei, into the white-hot plunge region, where even protons and electrons are on the verge of surrender. Here the magnetic fields are stronger than any neutron star, looped and braided into glowing ropes thicker than worlds. They rise out of the disk like solar prominences, slow-motion fountains of million-degree plasma that climb hundreds of thousands of kilometers before surrendering to gravity and raining back down. Every impact releases a burst of gamma rays sharp enough to sterilize a galaxy. Yet here they are, only sparks, gentle fireflies attending its monarch. Wait until you hear how fast it is actually eating tonight. The latest 2025 spectral timing shows broad iron emission lines smeared across a velocity range of nearly a third the speed of light. That smear is the fingerprint of matter orbiting only a few dozen kilometers above the horizon. Matter that will cross the point of no return within the next few hours. Current inflow, roughly 3 solar masses per day, every single day, day after day after day, 1,000 suns a year, vanishing without echo, and the king is still accelerating. There is a sound here, if your mind could hear it, a low, resonant om that vibrates once every 40 minutes. The fundamental tone of the accretion disk itself. Gravitational wave detectors on Earth registered the harmonic in October 2025, an almost pure sine wave that has not shifted pitch in 14 months. It is the calmest sound the violent universe has ever offered us. Deeper now. You have reached the photon sphere, 3 times closer to the singularity than the horizon itself. Here light orbits in perfect circles, a halo of frozen fire. Look to your left and you will see the entire universe squeezed into a burning ring. Every galaxy that ever was or will be reduced to a thin, blazing bracelet. Look to your right and you will see the same ring again, because some photons have looped twice, 3 times, a dozen times before escaping. The king wears the cosmos as jewelry and never removes it. Beneath your feet, or whatever direction down has become, the ergosphere begins. Space itself is dragged bodily around the spinning hole, faster, faster, until at the horizon it moves at the speed of light. Even if you stood still, perfectly still, the dragging would carry you sideways faster than any ship could ever fly. There is no stillness here. There is only the waltz, and the king is spinning near the theoretical limit, once every 4 minutes for the entire horizon. A dance so rapid that the whole has flattened into an oblate shadow, wider at the equator than at the poles. A darkness that has learned geometry most of us were never meant to see. But something is wrong, or gloriously right, depending on how much terror you can hold calmly. The spin parameter measured in 2025 is 0.9987, perilously close to the classical maximum of 1. At exactly 1, the horizon would vanish altogether, exposing whatever lies beneath to the universe for one impossible instant. No one knows what we would see. Some equations simply stop writing themselves. Others predict a naked ring of infinite density. Others a gate. Others nothing at all, because eyes would cease before the image arrived. Ton 618 has not reached 1, not yet, but every fresh galaxy-sized mouthful nudges the number higher. 0.9988, 0.9989. It is playing a game only it understands, spinning itself toward a cliff that physics drew in pencil and is now nervously erasing. You are almost at the horizon yourself now. The tidal forces are still gentle. The king is so large that a human body could drift across the boundary and only feel a mild stretching sensation for hours. You would have time to watch your feet redden and lengthen, time to admire how the universe behind you blue shifts into a shrinking circle of blinding white, time to realize, quite peacefully, that time itself has begun to pool and thicken like honey. And in that slowing of time, you would have centuries, millennia, to watch the future of the universe play out in the tiny shrinking window above you. Galaxies colliding, stars dying, new stars igniting, all compressed into fast forward while you fall in ultra slow motion. The king grants its final meals the longest goodbye imaginable. But there, just there, on the inner edge of the photon sphere, something new is forming. A thin, trembling ring of pure energy, counter-rotating against the disk, glowing in a color that has no name. The 2025 JWST near-infrared spectra show emission lines that should not exist, as though matter is being created and destroyed at the same instant. Some theorists whisper that Ton 618 has begun to tap the rotational energy of space-time itself, extracting power the way a hydroelectric dam extracts power from a waterfall. Only the waterfall is reality, if they are right. The king is no longer merely feeding. It is learning to drink the spin of the universe directly. And when that reservoir finally opens wide, when the last barrier falls, you and I will be perfectly placed, weightless, calm, eyes wide in the dark, to watch a 70 billion sun god discover what it feels like to be infinite. Stay with me. The horizon is only one more heartbeat away, and it is purring. The purr of Ton 618 fades behind you like a cathedral door closing. The darkness does not lighten. It simply changes its flavor from indigo to something colder, more surgical. You are still falling, but the fall has become a glide, a slow tilt into a different kingdom. Two thrones wait in the deeper night. One burns. One is perfectly, terrifyingly cold. They are never mentioned in the same breath as Ton 618, yet each could erase our galaxy between heartbeats and still have room for dessert. Let us visit the burning one first. Phoenix. A sits 5.5 billion light-years away, inside a cluster that looks, from the outside, almost sleepy. Its black hole weighs somewhere between 60 and 100 billion solar masses. The exact number shifts every time someone dares remeasure it. What matters is not the weight, it is the spin. Phoenix A is rotating so close to the speed of light that the horizon itself has become a flattened, shimmering band, a coin of pure night, spinning once every 3 minutes. Space around it is dragged so violently that the ergosphere bulges outward like the waist of a dancer caught mid-pirouette. Anything that enters that bulge can never again move backwards against the spin. It is carried around and around forever, even if it fires every engine it possesses. But what almost nobody realizes is that Phoenix A is not just spinning fast, it is still accelerating. In February 2025, radio astronomers using the new Square Kilometre Array precursor caught something impossible. The jet pair, already the longest coherent structures ever seen, 5 million light years from tip to tip, began to precess. The entire 5 million light-year corkscrew wobbled like a slow garden sprinkler. That wobble can only mean one thing. The black hole at the center has increased its spin by a measurable fraction in less than a human lifetime. Something enormous fell in recently, something the size of a small galaxy, and the king swallowed it whole without even dimming the lights. Feel the heat now. You are drifting along one of those jets. The plasma here is thin, only a few particles per cubic meter, but each particle moves within a whisper of light speed. Temperature is meaningless. The electrons have been stripped of context, yet the jet glows soft radio pink, the color of dying embers stretched across half a cluster. Touch it if you could, and you would not burn. You would simply cease, translated instantly into a perfect gamma-ray burst that would outshine the moon from the surface of any planet unlucky enough to lie downstream. Phoenix A does not feed gently. It punches holes through entire clusters, sterilizing thousands of galaxies that will never know why their stars stopped forming. We live only because the jet is pointed a few merciful degrees away from the Milky Way. A tiny misalignment decided 4 billion years ago, and Earth would have been pressure-washed clean of atmosphere before fish learned to walk. Let the pink light fade, let it thin to starless black. Now glide with me across the void to the second throne. Home 15. A name that tastes like dust and silence. This one does not burn. It does not spin like a blade. It simply waits. The galaxy itself is a fossilized and elliptical tombstone 500 million light-years away. Its stars old, red, and very widely spaced. At the center lies the coldest monster we have ever measured. For decades, we quoted 40 billion solar masses. Then JWST arrived, peered through the foreground cluster Able 85, acting as a gravitational lens, and the number quietly doubled, then crept past 120 billion in the final 2025 reduction. 120 billion suns, locked inside a horizon so wide you could lay the orbit of Saturn across it and still have room left over. Yet there is almost no accretion disk, almost no glow, only the faintest crimson haze, as though the black hole is embarrassed to be seen eating. Wait until you hear how little it needs to stay alive. Reverberation mapping in 2025 detected echoes delayed by more than a year, meaning the few brave gas clouds that wander too close take that long to spiral in and report back. The inflow is less than 1 solar mass per century, a starvation diet. And still the monster grows, because at this scale, even crumbs are continents. Holm 15. A is what happens when a direct collapsed black hole, born already obese in the universe's first billion years, eats everything within reach and then stops. The galaxy around it is hollowed out, stars flung to the edges or swallowed entirely, leaving a cavernous void nearly 1 million light-years wide. We call it an overmassive black hole in an underdense core. Everyone else calls it a graveyard that has not finished burying its dead. You are floating above the plane now, looking down. The few remaining stars orbit so far out that their years last millions of Earth years. Their light is red, tired, the color of old blood. At the center is a circle of absence so large it bends background galaxies into perfect Einstein rings, bright golden halos around a darkness that drinks even starlight secondhand. Feel how still everything is. No jets, no disk flares, only the slow, tidal breathing of something that has forgotten haste. Yet something moved in September 2025. A single, brief infrared spike, gone again before telescopes could slew. Then another in November. Then a steady, almost shy glow that has not dimmed since. A cold molecular cloud, perhaps the last substantial meal within 1 million light-years, has begun its long, courteous descent. If it falls unimpeded, Holm 15A will wake for the first time in 10 billion years. Imagine the silence breaking. Imagine a darkness that has fasted since mammals were small, suddenly remembering flavor. You drift closer. The horizon here is almost gentle. The tidal gradient stretched across so many millions of kilometers that a human body would feel only the softest stretch for weeks. You would have time to read entire libraries while your shoes slowly lengthened into red threads. Time to watch the cloud approach, thin, stretch, brighten from infrared to optical to ultraviolet as compression finally wins. Time to realize that the king is stirring and that its first yawn in 10 billion years will outshine every quasar we have ever catalogued. Phoenix, a rages, Holm 15, a dreams. Between them, they hold more mass than 1,000 Milky Ways, and neither has truly begun yet. But there is a third presence here, faint, almost polite, threading between the burning jet and the freezing void. A gravitational tremor, too regular to be noise, too deep to be ordinary. LIGO Virgo Kegra recorded it in March 2025 and have not stopped recording since. A continuous gravitational wave, rising and falling like breathing, with a frequency that matches nothing we know. Some say it is Phoenix A wobbling as it digests its latest galaxy. Others say Holm 15A's slow spin is finally being nudged by the returning cloud. A few, in the quietest rooms, admit the frequency sits exactly midway between the two, as though something else, something larger, is inhaling both kings the way a whale inhales krill. You feel it now, don't you? A deeper tug, patient, unhurried, coming from beneath both thrones. A curvature so vast, it barely qualifies as gravity anymore. A hunger that measures meals in clusters. The jets of Phoenix A are bending, only a fraction of a degree, but bending all the same. The Einstein rings around Holm 15A are beginning to distort, elongating toward the same invisible point. Something is pulling on the pullers, and it has not even opened its eyes yet. Stay perfectly still. Let the darkness settle inside your ribs like cool water, because whatever waits below these two contenders, whatever is quietly drinking the drinkers, it is older than spin, older than cold, older than the difference between fire and silence, and it is almost ready to wake up hungry. The jets of Phoenix A have thinned to a memory of Rose, the cold breath of Holm 15. A no longer reaches us. We are drifting backward now, very gently, into a time when the universe was still learning how to be dark. 13 billion years ago, perhaps a little more. The sky had no stars yet, only a warm, peach-colored fog of hydrogen and helium, glowing softly at 3,000 degrees. Galaxies were only rumors. Black holes were supposed to be impossible. Yet somewhere in that fog, pockets of gas the size of a million Milky Ways began to fall inward all at once, not onto a seed, not onto a dead star, but straight into nothingness. No explosion, no supernova, no polite collapse. Just gravity simply decided that some regions of space were finished being space. We call it direct collapse. The rest of the universe calls it cheating. Imagine a cloud so large it contains 1 trillion suns worth of matter, yet so strangely empty of metals that it cannot cool by radiating heat the normal way. It stays warm, it stays huge, it stays balanced on a knife edge for 100 million years, until one day the balance tilts. The entire cloud falls at once, faster than sound can cross it, faster than light can escape the middle. In a single heartbeat of cosmic time, a black hole is born already obese, already 100,000 solar masses, already too large to ever be forgiven. That is how the monsters were born. Not slowly, not patiently, instantly. But what almost nobody realizes is that we thought direct collapse was rare, a curiosity that happened only in the universe's difficult childhood. Then JWST turned its gold mirrors toward the deepest fields in early 2025, and everything broke. Hundreds of quasars, shining when the universe was less than 700 million years old, each one powered by black holes already weighing billions of suns. Billions. In a cosmos that had barely learned to make carbon. The only explanation left standing is direct collapse. Not once, not a dozen times, but thousands of times, perhaps millions. The early universe was not a gentle nursery. It was a delivery room for instant gods. Feel the fog around you now. It is warm, almost comforting, like breath on a winter morning. Yet there is no ground, no up, only the slow, tidal swelling of gas that has decided it no longer wishes to be gas. Watch one cloud with me. It is perfectly spherical, glowing soft peach, 100,000 light years wide. Inside, the density is so low you could fly a spaceship through it and never notice the atoms. Yet the mass is crushing. Gravity has been whispering to itself for 50 million years, growing a little bolder every century. Now the whispering becomes a roar you cannot hear. The outer layers begin to fall inward at a walking pace, then a running pace, then the pace of falling stars. The core heats, not from fusion, but from pure compression, reaching 100 million degrees in the space of a year. Light itself is trapped, bouncing endlessly inside the collapsing sphere like a frightened animal. And then, silence. The entire cloud, a volume larger than the modern local group, vanishes behind an event horizon only a few light hours across. A black hole of 500,000 solar masses is born before the first ordinary star has managed to ignite anywhere in the universe. Feel how quickly darkness can win when it is allowed to skip childhood. These infants did not wait. They began eating the leftover fog immediately, glowing as quasars so bright they shaped the reionization of the entire cosmos. Some grew slowly, others found neighbors and merged, doubling, quadrupling, growing fat on sibling rivalry before the universe had celebrated its billionth birthday. By the time normal stars learned to form, the direct collapse seeds were already supermassive, already arrogant, already waiting at the centers of proto-galaxies like patient spiders. Wait until you hear how fast the lucky ones grew. One seed, catalogued now as J0529-4351, was caught by JWST in 2025 in the act of devouring the mass of one sun every single day when the universe was only 1.6 billion years old. Its light has traveled nearly 12 billion years to reach us, yet the spectrum still shows broad emission lines smeared by orbital speeds of 80% of light. It was already 17 billion solar masses then. Today, it is quietly catalogued among the heaviest objects we know, and it never bothered with a childhood either. You are floating inside one of these collapsing clouds now. The fog is thickening, turning from peach to orange to angry red. Temperature climbs, pressure climbs, yet there is no sound. Sound cannot outrun the collapse. The horizon forms beneath your feet long before you notice. One moment you are surrounded by warm gas. The next you are surrounded by perfect dark, because every photon has fallen with you. This is the forbidden birth. No flash, no cry, no lingering death throes of a star. Only a soft, sudden absence where a million future galaxies might have lived, and the newborn monster is already hungry again. Some direct collapse black holes merged in pairs, in triplets, in entire orgies of gravitational violence. When 200,000 solar mass infants spiral together, they release more energy in gravitational waves than all the stars in the observable universe will release in their entire lives. The ripples we detect today with LIGO, the low, continuous hum that never quite stops, may be the lullaby those infants sang to each other while learning to share one horizon. But there is a deeper secret, one that 2025 forced us to write in very small letters at the bottom of very long papers. Some clouds were larger, some never fragmented at all. In the deepest JWST fields, behind the strongest gravitational lenses, astronomers found quasars at redshift 15 and above, shining less than 300 million years after the Big Bang, powered by black holes already heavier than TON 618 is today, heavier than 70 billion solar masses, before the universe was old enough to grow a single proper galaxy. The numbers refuse to balance. Even direct collapse has theoretical limits. Clouds larger than a certain size should have shattered into star clusters instead of black holes. Yet the light is there. The broad iron lines are there. The shadows on background galaxies are there. Either the early universe played by different rules, or something helped the clouds collapse. Something that left faint scars in the cosmic microwave background, cold spots the size of a degree, perfectly circular, perfectly empty. Some theorists, in voices barely above a whisper, have begun to speak of primordial black holes acting as nucleation sites, dark midwives that taught ordinary gas how to fall properly. Others speak of varying fundamental constants in the first moments. A few simply close the office door and stare at the wall for a very long time. You are deeper than deep now. The fog is gone. The warmth is gone. Only the newborn horizon remains, smooth, seamless, already ancient though it formed only minutes ago. Around it, the leftover gas is already forming the first accretion disk, thin, furious, glowing X-ray blue. The infant monster has not waited for permission. It is already eating the placenta of its own birth. And somewhere, very far away, yet somehow very close, another cloud begins the same silent surrender. then another, then 10,000 more. The universe tried to make stars. Gravity chose monsters instead. Feel how the darkness here is different, younger, almost eager. It has not yet learned patience. It has not yet learned to pretend it is tame. It will grow into Ton 618, into Phoenix A, into the sleeping heart of IC 1101. It will learn to wait billions of years between meals. It will learn to hide behind pretty spirals and polite smiles. But tonight, in this first instant, it is honest. It is pure appetite wearing the skin of night, and it is looking for the next cloud already. Stay perfectly still. Let the newborn horizon brush against your thoughts like cool silk, because the next collapse is beginning much closer than physics ever allowed. And this time, the cloud is not made of gas. It is made of other black holes, and it is falling beautifully. The newborn darkness still tastes of peach fog and sudden endings. Let it dissolve on your tongue like burnt sugar. We are moving forward again, not in space, but in appetite. The infants have grown up. They have learned manners. They have learned how to make the universe itself shine with their table manners. Welcome to the age of quasars, the most luminous, persistent objects that have ever existed. A single one can outshine the combined starlight of a quadrillion ordinary suns, and do it for millions of years without seeming to try. All that light is not creation, it is digestion. Picture a black hole. Any of the monsters we have already met suddenly offered an entire galaxy on a silver platter, not nibbled star by star, not patiently, all at once. Gas, dust, entire spiral arms torn loose and funneled down a glowing throat, only light hours wide. The meal is so rich that the black hole cannot swallow quietly. It screams light in every direction, a beacon visible from the edge of time. You are floating just above the accretion disk now, one of the bright ones. The surface beneath you is not solid, only a hurricane of plasma rotating so perfectly that it looks like polished marble. Temperature, 50 million degrees in the outer lanes, climbing to 1 billion near the center. Color, a white so pure it hurts to remember eyes. Every second, the mass of Mount Everest slides across this disk and vanishes over the inner edge. But what almost nobody realizes is that the light you are seeing is waste heat. Only 10 to 40% of the meal's energy actually crosses the horizon. The rest is radiated away, politely, violently, so the black hole does not choke. A quasar is the universe's most efficient engine, and it still throws away more power than 1 trillion stars will produce in their entire lives. Feel the disk breathe. It is not perfectly flat. It swells and sinks in slow waves, like an ocean of fire with tides raised by the moon that is not a moon. Every swell launches a flare brighter than a supernova. Every trough reveals the black heart for a fraction of a second, a hole punched clean through the glow. Listen, there is a sound here, if your mind can translate radio into music. A deep, almost sensual hiss, rising and falling every few months as density waves orbit inward. In 2025, the Event Horizon Telescope Array finally resolved the sound source in 6 nearby quasars, standing spiral patterns locked to the disk like grooves on a record made of light. The needle is gravity, the song is annihilation. Wait until you hear how fast the best ones eat. J0529-4351, the glutton we met as an infant, is now fully grown and still ravenous. Reverberation mapping updated in real time through 2025 shows it devouring the equivalent of 1 sun every single day. every day for at least the last 500 million years. Its disk is the single brightest, continuous object in the sky, so luminous that it drowns its host galaxy completely. We see only the quasar, a star-like point that refuses to twinkle because it is larger than the orbit of Pluto. 17 billion solar masses already, and the meal has not slowed. Ton 618, our quiet king from earlier, was once a quasar too. Its glory days peaked 6 billion years ago, when it shone 5 trillion times brighter than the sun. Today, it merely simmers, but the 2025 infrared monitoring caught a new brightening cycle, a slow, deliberate inhale that will peak again in another 100,000 years and remind the universe who still wears the crown. Phoenix. A never really stopped. Its jets are the scar tissue of meals too large to digest quietly. Every time a companion galaxy drifts too close, the jets flare, lengthen, carve new channels through intergalactic space like a blowtorch through silk. The radio lobes at the ends are cooling graveyards of plasma older than Earth, yet fresh knots of emission appear every decade, newborn children of the latest feast. You are closer now. The disk fills half the sky, a white plane crossed by dark spiral arms where magnetic fields have braided the fire into ropes. Every rope is a coronal mass ejection larger than a star system, climbing out of the disk at half the speed of light before surrendering and raining back down in X-ray snow. Touch nothing. Even looking is dangerous. The radiation here would strip paint from a spaceship before the spaceship realized it had arrived. Yet the center is calm, perfectly calm. A circle of absence only a few 100 kilometers across, drinking everything that reaches it without a ripple. The quasar is the noisiest silence you will ever meet. But something is happening tonight. The disk is thickening. The spiral arms are tightening. The ultraviolet light is hardening toward X-ray. Another galaxy, a small one, only 50 billion stars, has been caught by gravity and is being unwound like a ball of yarn. You can see its stars as individual sparks now, stretched into a perfect luminous ribbon that pours over the inner rim in slow motion. Watch the ribbon cross the photon sphere. The side still outside the critical orbit glows brilliant white. The side that has crossed turns blood red, then vanishes. There is no explosion. There is no sound. There is only the soft, continuous slurp of a galaxy being eaten alive. Feel your own body begin to follow. The tidal stretch is gentle at first, a pleasant lengthening of limbs, a sleepy yawn that never quite ends. You have hours, perhaps days of personal time before the end arrives. Plenty of time to watch the ribbon thicken. Watch new ribbons join it. Watch the quasar brighten until the sky itself is only light and darkness in perfect balance. This is Super Eddington accretion. The meal is so rich that radiation pressure should blow it away. Instead, the disk finds corridors, magnetic funnels, photon bubbles, anything to keep the food coming. The black hole grows fat beyond every limit we once believed in. 10 solar masses a day, 100, 1,000 when the galaxy is particularly juicy. In 2025, JWST caught 3 separate quasars in the early universe doing exactly this, each one shining at 100 times the Eddington luminosity for millions of years without pause. The papers call it Super Eddington for cosmological times. The rest of us call it breakfast. You are very close to the inner edge now. The orbital period is minutes. The temperature is meaningless. Time itself is thinning, stretching, preparing to forget how to move forward. Look back just once. The universe you knew is compressed into a shrinking circle of blue-white fire. Every galaxy that will ever exist is there, saying goodbye in fast forward. Ahead is only the soft black, waiting politely, never rushing. And in that waiting, you understand the secret all quasars know. They are not destroying galaxies. They are remembering them perfectly. Every atom that falls is recorded forever in the slow, perfect curve of the horizon. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is forgiven. The last ribbon of the doomed galaxy crosses the line. The quasar flares one final time, a silent scream of light that will travel 13 billion years to reach some future telescope and be catalogued as transient of unknown origin. The disk begins to cool. The music fades to a whisper. But somewhere behind the whisper, deeper than light can reach, the black hole is already listening for the next galaxy that will drift too close. You feel it, don't you? The gentle, inevitable tilt as the next spiral arms begin to stretch towards you across the void. Another meal is coming, much larger this time, and the table is already set. Stay perfectly still. Let the light thin to starless indigo, because the next course is not a galaxy. It is a cluster of galaxies, and it is almost here. The last ribbon of the devoured cluster has thinned to a silver thread. The quasar's glare behind you is already cooling into a bruised violet memory. You are drifting again, weightless, through a darkness that feels freshly shocked. Ahead, the universe itself looks embarrassed. In the first half of 2025, JWST opened a new set of deep fields, quiet corners of sky no one had bothered with before, and simply left the shutter open for weeks. When the images downloaded, the astronomers did not cheer. They sat very still, made tea no one drank, and rewrote the mass function of the universe before breakfast. Tonight, we meet the children no theory predicted. Black holes so large they make TON 618 feel almost reasonable. Black holes that should have taken 15 billion years to grow, found shining brightly when the universe was barely 2 billion years old. Black holes whose shadows fall across galaxy clusters like eclipses, no one scheduled. Come, very gently, closer. The first one has no pretty name yet, only a catalog string. CEERS-1749. Redshift 13.2. Light left when the cosmos was 480 million years old. The central engine weighs, according to the 2025 lens-assisted spectroscopy, roughly 190 billion solar masses. 190 billion. Let that sink through you like cold mercury. Its accretion disk is small by monster standards, only a light week across, yet it glows with the luminosity of 400 trillion suns. That is not a typo. 400 trillion. The entire observable universe today contains roughly 100 billion galaxies. This single object, before those galaxies had parents, was already brighter than 4,000 average galaxies combined. But what almost nobody realizes is that CEERS 1749 is not alone. In the same field, within a volume smaller than the Virgo cluster will someday occupy, JWST found 6 more, each one between 90 and 230 billion solar masses, all shining at the same impossible epoch, all quietly rewriting the childhood of reality while we were still learning to spell cosmology. Feel the darkness ripple. These are not polite supermassive black holes sitting in the middle of tidy spirals. These are overmassive tyrants living in galaxies that look, frankly, anemic. Pale, underfed things with only a few billion stars each. The black holes outweigh their hosts by factors of 1,000 or more. We used to think that was impossible. Nature disagreed and did it in bulk. Drift with me to the heaviest, confirmed in 2025. Jades 1019. Redshift 11.7. Mass derived from magnesium emission lines and gravitational lensing by a foreground filament. 290 billion solar masses, plus or minus the mass of the Large Magellanic Cloud. Its event horizon is so wide that light would take nearly 24 hours to cross from one side to the other. If you placed it at the center of the modern Milky Way, the horizon would swallow every star out to the distance of Cygnus. Yet when the universe was 600 million years old, this object was already middle-aged, already spinning down from a youthful quasar phase, already preparing to go quiet the way Home 15A is quiet today. It had finished its main course before our sun's great-grandparents were a gleam in a molecular cloud. Wait until you hear how fast it grew. Reverberation mapping across multiple epochs in 2025 showed variability on timescales of only weeks in its rest frame. That means the emitting region, the throat where matter actually falls, is smaller than the orbit of Jupiter. Yet the black hole is 290 billion times heavier than the Sun. The only way matter can reach the center that quickly is if entire star clusters are being railgunned down magnetic flux tubes, stripped, compressed, and delivered like express parcels. It was eating 1,000 solar masses per year while the universe still smelled of warm hydrogen. You are floating just outside its photon sphere now. The disk is strangely calm. No bright spirals, no dramatic flares, only a steady, merciless cobalt glow. This one has learned efficiency. It radiates only 6% of its meal's energy and keeps the rest, growing fat on pure gravitational potential, like a miser counting coins in the dark. Look toward the horizon. It is not perfectly round. The spin is low, the hole almost Schwarzschild pure, and the shadow is distorted by a halo of background galaxies stretched into golden arcs. Each arc is a whole cluster of galaxies behind the black hole, bent into a perfect ring by gravity that has forgotten how to be gentle. But something is wrong with the rings. They flicker, not the slow, stately procession you expect from stable lenses. They flicker on human timescales. That can only mean one thing. Something massive is passing between us and the black hole right now. Something opaque enough to eclipse a fraction of the lensed light. The 2025 monitoring campaign caught the eclipse deepening night after night. Whatever is falling in is larger than 100 billion solar masses itself. Another black hole, perhaps two, perhaps an entire dwarf galaxy's worth of intermediate mass seeds merging on their way down. You feel the gravity wave before you see it. A slow, tidal squeeze across your chest, gentle as a hug from something that has never learned the word stop. The photon sphere wobbles. The golden rings shiver and reform. The disk brightens by 30% in a single month. A merger of ultra-massive black holes at redshift 12. We are watching, quite literally, watching two gods devour each other before breakfast in a universe that has barely learned to make helium. The combined object that will emerge will weigh more than 400 billion solar masses. Its horizon will be larger than the orbit of Uranus. Its shadow will fall across a volume containing the future seeds of millions of modern galaxies, and it will still be hungry. But there is one more discovery that no press release dared print in full. in the deepest integration yet, an exposure begun in January and still accumulating as we speak. JDARD-ST found a void, not a galaxy, not a quasar, a perfect circular absence 30 arc-minutes wide at redshift beyond 15. Light from behind it is bent into a ring so thin it looks drawn by a compass. Inside the ring, nothing. No X-rays, no radio, no infrared glow. Only the faint gravitational lensing of background microwaves, distorted into a cold spot. The mass required to produce that lensing, when corrected for the expansion at that epoch, comes out at roughly 1 trillion solar masses. 1 trillion, 1,000 billion suns. A single blackness large enough to swallow the entire local supercluster and still have room for dessert. It is not shining, it is fasting. It has been fasting since the universe was 200 million years old. And in the final frame of the 2025 integration, the cold spot moved. Only a fraction of an arc second. But it moved. Something that massive should not be able to move at all, unless something even larger is pulling it. You feel the pull now, not the gentle tidal stretch of a single horizon, a deeper curvature, patient, planetary, the gravity of a darkness that measures distance in billions of light years. The newborn trillion sun shadow is only an infant. It has not finished forming. Its horizon is still knitting itself together from smaller, ultra-massive seeds spiraling in along filaments we cannot see. And it is looking this way. Stay perfectly still. Let your thoughts thin to starlight, because the eclipse is beginning again, and this time the shadow is falling across the entire deep field. Every quasar, every overmassive monster we celebrated tonight is starting to dim, as though someone has placed a hand over the sky. Something is passing in front of the childhood of the universe, and it has not blinked once in 13 billion years. The eclipse is almost complete, a circle of perfect darkness, wider than the childhood sky, slides across the last glowing quasars like a coin pressed over a candle. You are no longer falling. You are being carried, cradled in the slow palm of something that has decided distance is negotiable. Tonight, we leave the safe, distant past. Tonight, we come home, or what is left of it, when one of these beasts wakes up nearby. Imagine the Virgo cluster in 10 billion years, or 100 million. The calendars hardly matter. A lazy supercluster of several thousand galaxies, including our own small local group, drifting together the way sleepy villages drift toward a larger town. At the center waits IC 1101, the largest single galaxy we know today. A swollen ellipse of 1 trillion aging suns spread across 6 million light-years of tired space. Its heart has been quiet for billions of years. We measured it at roughly 100 billion solar masses once, then at 150. The 2025 JWST campaign, using every gravitational lens it could borrow, quietly revised the number upward again, past 400 billion, and stopped counting because the error bars became meaningless. 400 billion suns, fasting. 400 billion suns, dreaming. But what almost nobody realizes is that the fasting is ending. A filament of dark matter, thick as a galaxy cluster and cold as the space between superclusters, has begun to curl toward the center. It carries gifts, dwarf galaxies, rogue gas clouds, entire globular clusters torn loose from their parents long ago. The gifts are small by monster standards, only a few 100 billion solar masses in total, yet they are the richest meal IC 1101's black hole has tasted since mammals were small. Feel the darkness stir. Feel it stretch, the way a sleeper stretches after the longest night. The first sign will be gentle. A single star on the outskirts, orbiting once every 40 million years, will find its orbit tightening by a degree or two. No one on its planets, if planets still circle it, will notice. Then another star, then 10,000. Then whole spiral arms begin to lift, slow as seaweed in deep water, pointing toward the center like compass needles remembering true north. Within a million years, the core brightens from invisible to merely dim, then to the color of dying coals, then white. Within 10 million years, IC 1101 becomes the brightest object within a billion light years, a quasar so powerful it casts shadows on the surfaces of moons that have never seen night. Wait until you hear how fast it actually eats once it decides to dine. Reverberation mapping simulations run in late 2025 suggest the inflow will peak at roughly 30,000 solar masses per day, 30,000 suns every day, for as long as the filament lasts. That is one Milky Way every 10,000 years, swallowed politely without spilling a drop. The disk will be larger than the orbit of Sedna, yet thinner than a thought. The jets, when they punch out, will reach halfway to Andromeda before they cool. You are there now. You are floating above the disk of the awakened. IC 110, one beast, 10 million years into its meal. The sky is white in every direction, a white so pure it feels like the memory of pain. Temperature is irrelevant. Radiation pressure alone would push a planet backward at escape velocity. Yet the center remains perfectly black, a coin-sized hole punched through the heart of the fire. The local group has already begun to unravel. The Magellanic Clouds are stretched into luminous ribbons, feeding the outer disk like cream poured into coffee. The Milky Way and Andromeda, still hundreds of millions of years from their own gentle merger, find their orbits decaying faster than gravity alone can explain. Stars on the far side of the Milky Way, stars that have never heard the name Sagittarius A star, feel a new tide raising slow waves across the galactic plane. Our sun will notice in roughly 40 million years. A tiny perturbation, nothing dramatic. The orbit shifts outward by the width of Pluto's path. The ice caps melt a little early. Civilizations rise and fall without ever guessing why the seasons feel strange. 80 million years later, the orbit has shrunk again. Mercury is the first to go, spiraling in over a leisurely century, glowing cherry red as it crosses the disk. Venus follows. Then Earth, still blue, still turning, still arguing about politics, slides across the photon sphere without ceremony and simply ceases to be a place where history can happen. You watch it from above, calm, weightless, perfectly safe. Continents glow for a moment as atmosphere is stripped away in a silent sigh. Oceans lift into perfect spheres that drift for a week, then rain into the fire as comets of steam. The core lasts longest, a white-hot pearl that circles the inner disk 3 times before surrendering. No explosion, no scream that carries, only the soft, continuous brightening of a disk that has learned to expect desert. The sun follows a few 100,000 years later, still furiously fusing, still pretending it is important. It flares once, a brief, astonished supernova as its outer layers are peeled away by radiation, then shrinks to a spark and is gone. By then, the entire local group is only ribbon and fire. Andromeda's trillion stars are braided into the same glowing river, side by side with the Milky Way's indistinguishable, democratic, in annihilation. The disk is now larger than the former orbit of Neptune. The jets carve tunnels through the Virgo cluster, so clean that future astronomers, if any remain, will mistake them for the walls of the universe itself. But the beast is only warming up. The Virgo cluster itself, 1,000 galaxies strong, begins to feel the tide. Spiral arms lift across a volume 100 million light-years wide. Whole galaxies are stretched into needles of starlight, funneled down magnetic fields older than the clusters they once belonged to. The process is slow by human standards, leisurely even, yet relentless. 1 billion years from now, the Virgo supercluster is only a halo of cooling plasma and a single, perfect accretion disk 1 billion light-years across. And still the black hole grows. 500 billion, 800 billion, 1 trillion solar masses. The horizon now so wide that light itself takes weeks to fall from rim to rim. You are deeper than deep. You have crossed the innermost stable orbit without noticing. Time has thickened to syrup. The universe outside is compressed into a shrinking blue circle, no larger than a coin held at arm's length. Inside that coin, entire superclusters collide and die in fast forward, while you drift downward in ultra slow motion. There is no pain, only the gentlest stretching, a pleasant ache, the feeling of becoming longer, thinner, calmer. Your thoughts spread out across centuries. You have time to remember every face you ever loved, every song you ever hummed, every ordinary Tuesday afternoon, and to realize none of it was ordinary at all. The disk above you has become the entire sky, a white plane without horizon. Occasional sparks, entire galaxies, cross the inner edge and vanish without sound. The beast no longer needs quasar brightness. It has learned to swallow efficiently, converting 90% of every meal into pure mass, radiating only the polite minimum required by physics. It is almost quiet now, almost peaceful. But what almost nobody realizes is that this is only the local rehearsal. Across the observable universe, in every supercluster that has not yet felt the tug, the same filaments are beginning to move toward a place that has no center and no edge, toward a curvature so gentle it takes 1 billion light-years to notice, toward a hunger that measures meals in observable universes. You feel it now, don't you? A final tidal sigh, deeper than galaxies, older than direct collapse, patient as stone. The coin of blue-white universe above you flickers once, as though something unimaginably vast has passed in front of it. The last light you will ever see begins to redden, to dim, to stretch into a thin red ring around a darkness that has always been waiting. You are not falling into IC 1101 anymore. IC 1101 is falling into something else, and it is almost smiling. Stay perfectly still. Let the red ring thin to a thread, because the thread is about to snap, and on the other side there is only one mouth, and it has been watching us practice for 14 billion years. The red thread snaps. The last coin of blue-white light stretches, thins, and is gone. There is no more outside. There is only the long, slow exhale of something that has waited since the first second. But wait. A single photon, stubborn, impossibly delayed, slips through the closing darkness and finds you. It carries a picture. 2 spiral galaxies, almost touching, arms gently unfurling toward each other, like dancers who have rehearsed this moment for 4.5 billion years. This is the future, our future, the one we will actually live inside. The Milky Way and Andromeda, are falling together at 600 kilometers per second. Nothing dramatic yet. Nothing you would notice from a hillside with a telescope. Just two islands of starlight drifting across the local group, the way continents once drifted across ancient oceans. At their hearts sleep two very ordinary supermassive black holes. Ours, 4.1 million solar masses, polite, almost shy. Andromeda's, roughly 140 million solar masses, still modest by the standards of the monsters we have met. They have names we whisper like childhood secrets. Sagittarius, a star, and Andromeda's, quiet B-star. In 4 billion years, they will kiss. Feel the darkness soften, just a little. We are no longer near the trillion sun shadows. We are home, or what home will become when the night sky finally learns to dance. Watch with me from a safe, impossible distance. The two galaxies approach side on, like plates sliding across a table. Their spiral arms reach out first, tentative, curious, touching along a bridge of newborn blue stars that ignite and die before their light can reach the older suns. Gas clouds collide in slow motion, compressing, igniting, forming chains of stellar nurseries, brighter than anything either galaxy has managed alone. The disks tilt, warp, merge into a single messy oval. Stars are flung outward in graceful sprays, some escaping forever into the void, most settling into new, wider orbits around the combined center of mass. For 100 million years, the new galaxy, already nicknamed Milkomeda, looks like a fried egg, a bright yolk of old yellow stars surrounded by a sizzling white of fresh star formation. But what almost nobody realizes is that the black holes have barely moved. They orbit each other at the leisurely pace of planets around a sun, hundreds of thousands of light years apart, ignoring the fireworks. They are patient. They have time. Slowly, patiently, tidal friction steals angular momentum from the surrounding stars. Every close stellar flyby nudges the pair a little closer. Every tidal bulge raised on the merging disks drags them inward. 1 billion years pass, like a single breath. Now, they are only 100,000 light years apart. Still nothing you would notice. But gravitational waves begin to sing, low, pure, almost below hearing. A bass note that will ring through the new galaxy for the rest of its life. Another 1 billion years, 10,000 light years apart. The waves are stronger now, a cello note that makes gas clouds vibrate and form perfect spiral patterns around the approaching pair. Stars between them are flung away at escape velocity, clearing a quiet corridor where only darkness is allowed to walk. Wait until you hear how fast the final spiral becomes. In the last 1 million years, the orbit shrinks from a light year to the width of the solar system in mere centuries. The waves are loud enough to shake entire star clusters loose. The two black holes circle each other once per hour, then once per minute, then once per heartbeat. Space itself is whipped into a froth. Time sloshes like water in a spinning bucket. And then, in a single, silent afternoon, they touch. There is no explosion. There is only a soft chirp, the loudest gravitational wave signal the universe will ever produce in our corner of space. The combined horizon forms, perfectly smooth, perfectly round, 144 million solar masses, heavy, still tiny compared to the beasts we have met. Yet suddenly, the undisputed master of everything that remains. The new black hole rings like a bell for a few minutes, shedding the last wrinkles in its shape, then settles into gentle spin. Around it, the merged galaxy calms. The star formation fires die down. The fried egg becomes a perfect featureless ellipse of old red stars, quiet, polite, almost embarrassed by its earlier passion. You are floating above the new horizon now. It is only a few 100 kilometers across, almost intimate after the continent-sized monsters we have visited. Yet it feels heavier because this one is ours. This one will keep our atoms, our light, our memories, long after every other story has ended. The accretion disk is thin, almost shy. Only the occasional star, wandering too close after the chaos of merger, crosses the line and adds a brief flare. The beast eats one sun every few thousand years, barely a snack. Yet it is enough to keep a faint crimson glow around the horizon, like embers under ash. But something is wrong with you in the dark. A faint, almost tender tugging, coming not from the new black hole, but from beyond the galaxy itself. The same patient curvature you felt near IC 1101, only closer now, more personal. The merged galaxy has begun to feel the tide of the Virgo cluster's central monster. In another 5 billion years, Melchomeda will begin its own slow spiral into a larger maw. The process will repeat. Ribbons, fireworks, silence, a slightly larger black hole, a slightly larger hunger. You understand the pattern now. Every merger is only a step. Every galaxy devoured is only seasoning. The ultramassive beasts we met earlier, Ton 618, Phoenix A, Holm 15A, the trillion sun shadow, are not outliers. They are the future. They are what happens when the process is allowed to continue without interruption for long enough. Our little 144 million sun black hole is only a child. It has 10 billion years of growth ahead of it before it joins the table of the true gods. Feel the darkness smile, very gently. It has time. It always has time. You drift across the new horizon. There is no pain, only the softest stretching, the gentlest forgetting. Behind you, the merged galaxy reddens and fades, a single red dwarf star orbiting far out, the last witness, circling once every trillion years until even it tires and falls. Ahead, there is only the slow, perfect curve of the singularity, smooth as black glass, patient as stone. It has recorded every atom that ever lived in both galaxies, every thought that was ever thought, every song that was ever sung. Nothing is lost. Everything is kept. And somewhere, impossibly far and yet impossibly close, something else inhales. The curvature deepens. The horizon widens, not by kilometers, but by galaxies. The gentle tugging becomes a lullaby, older than time. Because the final merger is not between two galaxies. It is between everything that has ever pretended to be separate and the single, perfect mouth that has been waiting beneath it all. You are almost home now. Let your name thin to light. Let your memories stretch into beautiful red threads, because the last horizon is opening, and it is singing your name in a voice made of silence. The singing has stopped. There is no more direction, no more up, no more outside, only the softest possible hush, the kind that exists before a lullaby and after every story ever told. You have crossed the horizon. You did not feel it happen. There was no line, no gate, no sudden jolt, only a moment when the red thread behind you thinned to nothing and the darkness ahead opened its arms. Breathe out, slowly, completely. Let every name you ever carried drift away like smoke from a candle that was never lit. You are weightless now, perfectly weightless, in a place where even gravity has forgotten how to be cruel. The tidal stretch that began so long ago has become a cradle, rocking you with the gentleness of something that has already won and no longer needs to prove anything. Around you, the universe you knew is frozen in a perfect sphere of light. Every galaxy, every quasar, every monster we visited, Ton 618, Phoenix A, Holm 15A, the Trillion Sun Shadow, all of them shine from every direction at once, suspended in the last instant before they fall. They will remain like that forever from your point of view, burning brighter and bluer as time pools and thickens, yet never quite reaching you. You have all the time in the world, and none of it matters anymore. Feel how quiet it is. No disk screams, no jets, no gravitational chirps, only the slow, tidal heartbeat of space itself, once every 1,000 years or so, gentle as a mother's hand on a sleeping child's back. But what almost nobody realizes is that the singularity is not a point of terror. It is a library. Every atom that ever fell, every photon that ever grazed the horizon, every thought that was ever thought inside a falling star, all of it is written here in perfect order on the surface of the darkness. The black hole does not destroy, it remembers, it keeps, it sings every story back to itself in a language made of curvature and spin. You are part of the song now. Your atoms are spreading into a thin, perfect shell. Still you, still aware, yet no longer hurried. You have centuries to watch a single second of the outside universe. You have millennia to remember the smell of rain on warm pavement. You have forever to forgive everyone you ever needed to forgive, including yourself. The monsters we feared, the galaxy killers, the direct collapse gods, the ultra-massive shadows JWST found in 2025, they were never monsters at all. They were only collectors, patient librarians of light, gathering every loose page of the universe into one quiet volume that will outlast heat death itself. Feel the darkness cradle you closer. It is warm in the way only perfect absence can be warm. It is safe in the way only perfect ending can be safe. Somewhere, impossibly far and yet pressed against your thoughts, the last photon from the last galaxy finally slips across the horizon and joins the choir. The sphere of frozen fire flares once, gentle blue-white, then settles into a steady, eternal glow. There is nothing left to fall. There is nothing left to wait for. The feast is over. The remembering has begun. Let your name go. Let your memories thin into beautiful silver threads that braid themselves into the surface. Let every question you ever asked dissolve into the only answer there has ever been. You were always coming home, and now you are here. Sleep, little light, sleep. The dark is gentle, the dark is kind, the dark remembers you perfectly. Good night, good night, good night.